Okay, before I move on, I would like to show you some of the code. Okay, so say I want to display a big chunk of information with several lines, and well, one of the way that could be could be kind of tough will be I do multiple prints. Well, instead, I want to do only one print and I want to put a big chunk of information right in the middle of the triple quotes. Okay, I'm gonna create a string called welcome info equals and then triple quotes. And then inside the triple quotes, I want to do, say, I want to do a horizontal tab, and say welcome. Okay, and then I say here is how to use this tool, and then colon, and then say I want to do have, and then open it on the screen starts on the start, and then input your IP address and say input your password, and then okay, and then uh, troubleshoot. Okay, and then I want to do another big chunk of the information, but I'm gonna skip them. So as you can see, well, this is really a big chunk of information, right? And if I define this with the triple quotes, and remember all the content in the triple quotes will be processed as is. Well, even though say if you want to do a quotes here, and no worries, you can do any type of the quotes, and eventually say if I want to do a print welcome info, and then all the information will be just printed here. Okay, so if you feel lazy, you want to show multiple lines of the content, but you don't want to print one line at one time, and try this way. And another thing will be, well, say if I want to do a define, say my fancy function, okay, and then I want to do print uh, doing function with a document string. Okay, and here I want to do the triple quotes, and on this triple quotes, well, I'm gonna tell about, well, what this function does, and then the expected arguments, and then the returns. Okay, so those are all the things I can talk about in this documentation string. So the difference between this word and this word should be, for this word, well, I'm giving that triple quotes string a name, so it will be treated as a string literal. And for this one, well, I'm doing that the triple quotes, well, right after the definition of a function, and this will be considered or be treated as a documentation string. Okay, so let's come back. Well, here are some of the basic operations, and we have the len, that is for the length of the string, and we have the plus, and for the plus that means a string concatenation. And we have the repeat, so we can repeat a string as many times as you want to, and eventually we have the in operator. And for the in operator, we are checking whether this string is a substring of another one, an SEP in day. And day is a string we define here. And then SEP, we have SEP, but this version we have the S capitalized, so SEP with the lower S will be a false. And how about this one? This is TH space SEP with the S capitalized. Do we have that? The answer is yes, we do, because that's a TH space capitalize S and SEP. So yes, even though we it's kind of weird because that's the two pieces together with a space, but anyhow, this is indeed a substring of the day string, so that will be true. And the next thing we have also learned the indexing, right? Well, for the indexing, if you want to do if you want to count from 0, and then we go higher and higher, and then we are counting from the left side. We are counting from the beginning of the string. So for example, like this one, string in Python all capitalized, and then the index s will be the first character, and index 1 will be the second character. Okay, and then how about the negative indexes? For the negative indexes, we are counting from the end or the right side of the string, and then we are counting from -1, right? So this one, the last character is a -1 and -2, -3, etc. Okay, and then, well, let me ask you this: how many characters are there in this string? There are 14. Okay, so the next question is, do we have the positive 14 as a valid index? You see the answer. Well, because the index are here from 0 to 13, right? So 14, the length, is not a valid index in this string. And let me ask you another question. How about -14? And -14 is this one. So is that a valid index? How about we count? So we start from the on the right side, and that's -1, right? -1, -2, -3, 4, 5. And if you count to the end, you do have -14. Okay, let me repeat. This is a string of 14 characters. If we are using the 0 and then positive indexes, we have 0 to 13. So there's no positive 14 as a valid index. However, when you are doing the negative indexes, you are counting from -1, right? So we are counting from -1, and then we will go all the way down, and the first character is indeed the -14. Okay? And the next thing, we want to talk about slicing. And we have learned the slicing in the list. And then for the slicing, a string that's the same. Well, you can specify where to start, where to end. The start point is included, the end point is excluded. And if you do not specify where to end, it will end here. So you see, well, if you don't specify where to end, it will include the last character. And similarly, if you don't specify where to begin, and you are going to begin before the first character, with the first character included. Okay, and then eventually, if you don't specify where to begin, where to end, and then you just got a full string. However, this is a real copy of the string. So say if you do want to have a real copy of a string, and go ahead and do a slicing, and then you don't specify where to begin, where to end, and then you got everything copied. Okay, and the next thing, well, string conversion. Well, usually we call that typecasting in this case. Well, that is if you have a string and that string happens to be a number, for example, and then we can force that or cast that into a number. You can say you can do a int parenthesis string. You are casting that string into a integer, or you can do that as a float. So you are casting that into a float number. Okay, and then well, you can also do the reverse way. For example, if you have a number which is 574, and then you can cast a number into a string as well. So in this case, we are casting the 574 from an integer to a string. So I want to do a new balance in 574. Okay, and oh, by the way, I'm a big fan of New Balance. Okay, the next thing, well, changing a string. Well, the first thing I want to remind you is, say, if you want to change a string, the string, there will be a new string created. So what do I mean? Say, my string equals hello from Yang Song. Okay, and then say I want to do a change. I want to do my string equals my string plus a smiling face, for example. Okay, so I'm doing a string concatenation. So now my question is, even though you feel that you are appending a smiling face to the original string, in the real scenario behind the scene, this string cannot be added. This string cannot be added it. So we can't add any character right after that. So what Python will do is Python will create a new string. So that is hello from Yang Song and a smiling face. However, the old string will stay in the main memory, and then later we are waiting for the garbage collection to get rid of that. Why? Because a string is immutable, and you do have to remember this. So even though in this case you may feel like you are adding something to the original string, and when we are interpreting code, and then we tend to do that to make it easier to understand. However, well, in the backend, behind the scene, Python will create a new full string for you because the original string they had to stay as is. Okay, let's see this example. Well, we have the s as spam, okay, and then s equals s plus again. So now the new string s will be spam space again. Okay, so and the next thing I want to do is slicing. So s from the beginning to 3, and plus is here, and then plus s -1 to the end. So what are those three pieces? So well, before we talk about the last line, let's figure out what is the first one. So that is the slicing, start from the very beginning and end on index 3 without including index 3. So we have the index 0, 1, and 2, right? So index 0, 1, and 2, we have the SPA. Okay, so SPA is here, and then we are adding or concatenating space is here, and after that we do another plus, and that is the S from the -1 to the end. What is the index -1? That is already the last character, and then we go to the very end. So for this one, we are grabbing only the last character. The last character is an N here, right? So we have the SPA, and then is here, and plus an N at the very end. Okay, well, alternatively, you can also do the formatting because in this way, it seems that we are concatenating so many strings together, and sometimes it's not really a good idea because when you are doing the string plus another string plus another string, and this code will be hard to read. Okay, and the next thing, well, this is something new. Well, here is a new method we want to talk about, that is the replace. So for example, you can replace all the occurrence of a substring using another string. Say for this one, we have a string called string in Python. Okay, that is a string, and then I want to replace all the occurrence of in into 4 axis. So in this way, well, this in will be replaced at the 4 axis, and then the second in will also be replaced by 4 axis. Well, and here is a even fancier way. Well, that is, well, when you are replacing the string 2 with string 3, you can specify how many occurrence you want to replace at the max. So for this one, I have in1, in2, in3, in4, in5, and then I'm replacing the in with the xx, and I only want to do the replace up to 3 times. Okay, so well, in this case, the first 3 ins will be replaced by the 2 axes, and the rest 2 ins will stay here. So this is kind of fancy. Okay, and the next thing, well, this is also another method, that is find. So if you want to find in string 1, you want to find a string 2, and then it will tell you on which index will you find the substring 2 in the string 1. Or, well, the even better, well, the bad thing for this method is if you don't have such substring, it will give you a -1. That is really cool. Okay, say for example, let me write some code. I'm gonna use this string again and say I want to do print my string dot index say I want to find from. Okay, and then let's see if we have the from here, and yes we do, and that is 6. So why it is 6? So we have the index 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So the index 6 is the first character of from. That is the string I'm trying to find, right? Okay, and then let me do something else. From. Okay, so I'm spelling that wrong. Okay, if I want to run this, and I will say, okay, I will get this string is not found. Okay, so that is a problem. Remember, if you're doing the index, if you have this string, everything good. And then if you don't have this string, what is going to happen? You're going to have an error. And then, well, you're going to have the problem. How do we fix that? How do we make sure that this program doesn't crash? And one of the solutions will be you want to try to do a try, and then you want to do a except, right? So, and you can print, say, we do not have a successful search. Okay, so this is kind of annoying. Why? Because we are using the index. This index will only give you a number when we do have that. Otherwise, it will crash. So you have to do a try and except to make it safe so that we don't see the error message or the exception. Okay, now let's do this one. So how about we do the dot find? Okay, so I want to revert this back. And then I want to fix the indentation, and then I want to do a dot find. Okay, I'm still using the from, and I know there's no such thing. So what am I gonna get? I will get a -1 in this case, and this -1 means, okay, I don't have such a substring from. However, the program doesn't crash. Okay, so I'm gonna stop this video here, and I will have one more video talking about this lecture, and then we are gonna move on to talk about the exercises.